On the road, walk right side, safe. Walk left side, safe. Walk middle, sooner or later, get the squish just like grape. Here, karate, same thing. Either you karate do yes, or karate do no. You karate do gesso, just like grape. Understand?
Yeah, I understand.
Now ready?
Looking back over the writing assignments I have composed over the course of this semester for my classes outside of digital rhetorics is humorous to me now. Everything is alphabetic text-based, though I was able to go a little crazy and add photos as a means of multimodal writing in a select few courses. My composition has morphed to be as multimodal as my writing has. As I wrote this, I typed it on a Word document to be read aloud and recorded, to be uploaded, transferred to iMovie, ducked to a certain volume, and added as part of the soundtrack of this video. Remind me again why I decided to accept this dare, Doug? The important thing to remember, though, is just as multimodal writing is functional in presenting ideas in a way that stimulates numerous senses of ours, composing in a similar format allows our brainstorming to explode into a variety of avenues. For me personally, as a visual as well as alphabetic person, creating multimodal writing simply makes sense to me. My favorite part of this semester has been in creating so many interesting assignments, all of which were extremely different than those I had composed for other courses. What excites me most about this type of writing is the possibilities for its future. In terms of both of my majors, in photography and writing, there is no black and white format for which our mediums can take place anymore. The digital world is full of endless possibilities, and in that, as a member of the Writing Center community, I look forward to meeting those challenges as I walk in the doors of the writing centers all over the country in the years to come, with students bringing multimodal text to tutors in the same way they bring lab reports now. Isn't that awesome? The idea that Fisher presents of human beings being inherently storytellers was mind-boggling to me. Why shouldn't we be considered as such? From pictographs to the first attempts at alphabetic scripts, as seen in the Phaistos disc, think to science writing, Doug, I love that freaking disc, we have always been driven as a species to document and create the stories that surround us. Of course we should be considered storytellers as a species. Duh, Kelsey. McCandless's video came at just the right time in the semester for me, prior to our trip to Orlando, when I was pondering the significance of maps and the connections they held in terms of composition, and how that was similar to our own writing process within the writing major. The way that McCandless discusses data visualization, and the reason that simply works for our brains, clicked, and a new project arose for me out of it. I love the fact that McCandless had come from a background in graphic design that simply proved my theory even more of how writing wasn't just going to be an English department thing anymore. Dash's video forced me to think differently about collaboration. I started looking at the Writing Center in a new light, especially with the workshops we were putting on, and the way in which Write With Us Wednesdays provided a space for writers to come together and write together, though individually. Collaboration is some hardcore shit, and I think I had fallen to dismissing it before this video reminded me of why it could be valuable. Though a certain professor of mine likes to refer to writing as an inscribed thought. For a long time, I thought this may be the most complete definition of writing I could hope to entertain. However, after a semester of both this class as well as history of rhetoric and composition and others, I don't think that an inscription can encompass all that writing may be. What about body language? What about oratory? What about dance? For me, each of these instances is a form of writing and can be analyzed rhetorically, but is it inscribed? And what about thought? Does that allow for emotions? Does it enable the writer the possibility to entertain a situation of communication or interaction for purely pathetic purposes? Throughout this semester, my definition of this term has been challenged over and over again, not only in my English courses, but in my photo classes as well. Multimodality was an interest of mine that always lay in the back of my brain, but I just didn't hold the tools to make it a useful form of writing for what I wished to express. I think that digital rhetorics expanded my horizons in terms of the possibilities of my writing. My final project for my advanced lighting class in photography was an excellent example of this, as I had to struggle to have my project be accepted as photography. I found the entire argument incredibly bizarre, seeing as how my project included photographic images, though there was alphabetic text included in each. The individuals in this class seemed to struggle with the idea that photography could be improved, or at the very least interpreted differently, with the usage of multimodality in its production. For me, this illuminated the gap between the two discourse communities I was part of, once again teaching me how my own patience was necessary in the need to continue the conversation of multimodality across the disciplines. Just because I was able to interpret both the images and the alphabetic text as modes of writing and saw the value of analyzing them rhetorically, didn't mean that they could be interpreted as such by my audience without a conversation on multimodality beforehand. This class gave me the tools to discuss rhetoric foundationally, to think of multimodality across the disciplines, and how I could apply it to my own writing skills. On the first day of our History of Rhetoric and Composition class this semester, I remember defining rhetoric as the art of persuasion. Now, I laugh at that definition in the same way that Doug laughs at me, when he really wants to strangle me, when I say a piece of writing is dull. What does the art of persuasion mean? What all does it encompass? How do we answer the question of what rhetoric is in a 20-second elevator ride as Kate wants us to? How do we apply this definition to multimodal writing? Of the different definitions I have studied, heard, or read about, Andrea Lunsford's remains my favorite. For Lunsford, rhetoric is the art, practice, and study of human communication. Now, the working definition of terms gets tricky. Doug likes to describe rhetoric as a study of human interaction, but for me, I still haven't decided yet if I like communication or interaction better for its purposes in the definition of rhetoric. For me, communication infers that the rhetor must enter the situation with a clear purpose or goal in mind for why they are entering the situation at all. On the other hand, I think an interaction allows for a more organic type of situation. I think that rhetoric has the ability to do both, to communicate using a goal or to interact with no conscious goal in mind. However, this becomes even more complicated when considering what the terms art, practice, and study infer in Lunsford's definition. In terms of distinguishing between traditional ideas of rhetoric and how they function in a digital context, I don't see the difference. For me, the same ideas, theories, and concepts apply, they just need to be thought of in a different way in order to be applicable across modalities. That may sound snobbish of me, but I still haven't figured out a way to explain that gracefully to those that don't understand it. To me, they are the same.
Bow down, bitches, bow down, bitches, bow down, bitches, bow down, bitches, H-Town, bitches,
Over the course of the semester, I encountered two very significant idea shifts about writing in the course. The first one was in a class discussion in which we looked at an online magazine. I believe it was the New Yorker or New York Magazine or something of that sort, in which the magazine had transferred journalism to a digital context using all different forms of multimodalities. Videos, pictures, moving GIFs or GIFs if you're Sicily, and sound as well as alphabetic text. That, for me, was mind-blowing. I had seen it before online, cruised through it over my phone while bored in class, but I hadn't stopped to think about the rhetorical implications of what that context could mean for writing, or for journalism at that. For me, that was a huge moment, and the discussion we had in class just fostered that. The second idea shift I think I encountered was while in the midst of trying to make my presentation for the IWCA NCPTW conference in Orlando that we all from the Writing Center went to visit. When I started looking at McCandless's ideas of data visualization as well as Dash's ideas of collaboration, I started looking at GIS and writing in a different way. Along with a lot of different sources that Kate gave me, thinking about geology and writing and how cartographic mapping can be the same as storytelling in writing, my mind exploded. This is something I've only begun to think about and only begun to write about, but something I think that I will be writing and thinking about for a long time to come. Digital Rhetorics provided me this environment and this community in which to bounce these ideas off of, but also to gain resources that I wouldn't have had otherwise in order to do so.
Goddamn, say yeah, look so good tonight. Goddamn. Mama taught me good home training. My daddy taught me how to love my haters. My sister told me I should speak my mind. My man made me feel so goddamn fine. You wake up, post up, round in it, flossing on it. This diamond, my diamond. This rock, my rock. I woke up like this. We flawless. Ladies, tell them I woke up like this.